Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Project PortsalMC Map Gaming Building Vlogs. This is season 2, and today what we're going to be doing is finishing up. Um, Off camera, I did a lot of work on this abandoned Basalt Delta Fortress. Um, it's abandoned, and I'll show you why. I'll explain why and show you the build. Let me briefly cut to there, and please do stay around because there's going to be a lot in this episode which may surprise you. So, first of all, the location. We are located roughly around 80 x88, y43, and and z negative 351. This area is infested with magma cubes, as you can probably guess. It is a basalt delta. These are some of the most difficult to traverse biomes in the game, I believe. And yeah, as you can see, I didn't bother. Now, my idea, what I wanted to do is like expand all the way through this biome. But what I realized in doing that would cause a lot of issues. Well, yes, I could convert, like, especially this area into a giant castle. Uh, this isn't supposed to be a massive castle. It's supposed to be a small fort. So, yeah, and a broken down one at that. Um, hence why it looks like it's been rebuilt several times at various points and stages and in use. I don't know what I was going to put there, but we'll discuss what the possibilities here. So this was built during the war in the Nether. Roughly the history for it. I don't actually have an exact timeline, which I should figure out for lore. In fact, I haven't spent a lot of time on lore, which I think is one of my shortcomings. I'm not a great lore writer, and I'm still learning about that kind of stuff. So please do bear with me. This is my first map that I've done ever, like first serious Minecraft map. I've done smaller projects like towns and stuff in the past, but nothing on this scale. It's an interesting experience once you've gone and done it. So let's start from the entrance. This is the entrance right here. You're met with this sort of broken down looking spiral staircase. Well, that looks like whatever structure was here has been lost to time and probably ghasts. Yeah, most definitely ghasts. Now going into here, you're gonna see that it's one, not very well lit, and two, it's infested with magma cubes, which on their own aren't too difficult, but when in like groups like this, it becomes challenging. I'm gonna turn this into like a barracks of sorts. I don't know. Well, actually, I think a barracks might fit here. But for right now, let's go into this main building here. This is I believe it's a 3-level building. There is no roof and no roof access. I plan to have here like an empty logbook or something, but I don't know yet what's going to be in that. I'll have to figure that out soon. I also built this in this area because of the particle effects. Like, I love the particle effects at this. In fact, I wish that this was like the snow particle effects because it looks so much better. Or at least like forest fires or stuff would create this particle effect. That would be nice. Anyways, let's stop admiring the random particle effects of the game and go back to some of the history and what groups or peoples might have used this structure and what was it actually used for. This is a structure that was more of a defensive fortification. Um, not a part of not a part of a. It was more of a last stand location. Not a part of a larger city. It wasn't part of a larger, well, probably part of a larger group, but I would assume due there have been multiple renovation attempts over the countless centuries that this structure has been in use, in and out of use. So you can definitely tell that there's a lot of due to my choice of biome, the location is relatively inhospitable to most mobs, with the exception being magma cubes. You can tell that, and yeah, I purposely converted all the lava here to obsidian for obvious reasons, but also because it looks good. What I'm going to be doing here pretty shortly is, I think I'm going to be working on another build in the Nether. I don't know quite what it's going to be yet, but we'll have to wait and see because I don't exactly have a plan around that yet. And no, if you're wondering why it looks like this, I did not plan this out. I just built. I think it looks fine. People may complain that it's ugly. Absolutely no. The reason I use a diverse block palette, is because I wanted to look like it had been damaged and repaired with various materials and various methods over the course of its lifetime, and now it's just this is a background element. The player can come here. There is really no reason to come here, but this location does exist. It will be recorded down so I don't lose the location. It's more of a citadel than anything else. A small, or maybe a small fort. The scaling on things are very weird in the universe that I'm building, so most things aren't going to be too terribly large. I think the biggest settlement that I've done, or biggest area that I've worked on, is the collection of builds used in the, I believe it was used on the actual main island of Portsal, which is, as you know, a portal hop away from Baba Yaga's stronghold, or Baba Yaga's nether fortress, which, in and of itself is interesting. I think it was more convenience, and proximity to the portal than actual realistic thought that went into that. But seeing as that is almost a defining feature at this point, the map that you can go into the Nether and have almost immediate access if you want the challenge, it's more than worth the reward that you get from running that dungeon, but it's advised that you don't do it until late game because you're going to get your ass kicked. And even with netherite armor that is enchanted, mind you, and my minimal PvP skills definitely didn't help. But yeah, you can get your ass whooped without even just don't go in there without being prepared. Potions at the least. And you may be wondering, why am I, like, killing a bunch of slimes? I go so much want them inside here as I want them more outside. They're meant to be a challenge to the player, and I'm glad that I chose this location as there's going to be like a few bits and bobs here, but most of the stuff's going to be skeletonized for the reason that this is meant to be looked like you from a building you'd expect like things to have been taken removed over the course of time. Because I don't have a set age for this structure, I will say that this structure is very old. But it definitely stems from the early years of the early battles during Baba Yaga's, I believe. So there's at least 70 ages where Baba Yaga is more prevalent. I think there's 7 ages in total in the timeline that a universe that I have envisioned for this. There's first age and second age were relatively peaceful. They're set before the events of present day Minecraft took place. Before the timelines or the supposed game theory timelines of ancient builders and stuff. That was during the time of the ancient builders, where they were building constructs. This is probably from the. This is probably from around the time where ancient builders were starting to discover the zombie plague. Now, as you know, the zombie plague doesn't exactly go into the Nether very far. I think, and even lore and stuff, if you go into a lot of the books, you're going to notice that like as far as netherite goes, the netherite used to be a common ore in the nether. So this was built during that time where you could you could go into the nether and mine netherite straight directly from an ore, and the purity was good. I think the gold to netherite scrap ratio is like 50-50 or something for the armor. So I think what we have is quote unquote netherite chest plates. Either that or netherite gold could be something like a flux, because netherite does work at a higher temperature. But yeah, there is a small amount of storage here, which you've probably seen. There are going to be some different wood types inside the structure. As for anything outside the structure, I don't think any wood would be surviving very long outside the structure. I think that would have all burned away, and I'm definitely going to have to open up and put holes in the floor stuff to make this, appear old, worn, not very maintained. I still want to have it be traversable, but not something you'd want to actually be inside of for long periods of time. That's the idea here. It's not supposed to be an appealing place. It's supposed to look broken down, chaotic, almost patchworked, like people have come and gone through here and ultimately abandoned it for the same reason it was abandoned probably in the first place. It just wasn't a suitable location from the get-go. It was strategic at the time of its construction, but that's a time that's long since passed. And I'm going to continue this discussion in a third episode where we do some actual building. This is more discussion lore portion of the video where I do a little bit of lore breakdown. As incoherent as it may seem, there is a method to my madness that I'm still trying to figure out myself. As far as as you can see, this is an ancient nether portal. This is supposed to be an ancient nether portal. Something that has long since deteriorated. My belief is that this crying obsidian is what happened. That nether portals themselves are inherently unstable, and eventually the portal itself will shut down but leave behind a residue-like substance, and that seems to have coated or infected the obsidian, making it non-viable for further travel. I guess that's the inherent lore that I'm placing on crying obsidian. I don't use it as much in my builds. I mean, I've used it in a couple builds, but they're just places where they're not too prevalent. It's not a prevalent block in any of my builds. Crying obsidian does emit a low amount of light. I think it's 1 or 2 light levels, but it's not very far. Just in a 3x3 radius around the block itself. As far as beds go, I'm probably going to use birch or wood slabs, something cheap. And birch, since I don't know where this is going to take you in the overworld, but I'm just going to go with birch here and have these slabs that look like beds. I got the idea of here from another YouTuber, watching another YouTuber's build, and I do a lot of looking into how other YouTubers organize their story, and I haven't really I realized that one of the elements that I've been missing is a really flushed out story element, and I think that's an element that's always going to struggle with this map. But I do want to incorporate some kind of coherent story to it, background at least, leading up to the events. And the fact of the matter is, the way this story works is you're shaping you basically, up until you spawn in, or up until you appear in the world, and up until you end the playthrough, the intended audience is you're definitely it's basically you're in the very waning days of the battle. In fact, your ultimate goal is to finally destroy Baba Yaga. Her forces have been destroyed already, but she has not. She is constantly trying to amass her armies. In fact, that's entirely evident from my use of spawners on her fortress, because the longer you sit and wait around that fortress, the more enemies you're going to be dealing with. If you're not traveling out thousands of blocks in the nether to gather resources, in which case you're gonna stand a better chance. But as long as you stick, if there's a downside to sticking close to that nether fortress. And as you can see, there's a lava here. I put some lava here. I used some smooth basalt because something like this, you'd want a small amount of overworld blocks necessarily. The reason I used some overworld blocks is because they tied into the color palette a little bit better. I used blackstone and chiseled blackstone. I would assume that this level was added during a piglin occupation. Not an extended stay for piglins, but more a short stay. Probably during a skirmish or something. And this was just upgraded. I would have assumed that this structure would have long since been at least the second and third level. As you can tell, this actual top level would be missing its entire floor, which is assumed that whoever occupied it at this stage, probably piglins, maybe not, would have had the replace the floor at some point and maybe set up these barracks here. Maybe the floor caved in at some points from wood rot or something. I don't, since rotting wood is, it canonically it's seen that there are fallen trees mostly in Bedrock Edition, but as far as the actual as far as the various structures go that I've built so far, I think the most comprehensive lore-wise one is Baba Yoda. I'm going off on tangents here at this point because I don't. There's what's the harm? It's all speculative at this point. Until I figure out something concrete, but right now I have other pressing matters to attend to. And you know what? It's about that time to end this video. I hope you enjoyed us running around, putting in some things. Even though the building wasn't so much, I think the commentary amounted to something. Anyways, if you enjoyed the commentary and want to see more videos with a little bit more commentary and a more in-depth discussion, then please do consider hitting that like and subscribe button. As always, I am Zephyros. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.